Land of the free, home of the brave, well, has now become, in liberal land, the land of the woke snowflake. Look, don't you just hate to see liberals turning on each other like this? So sad to see. Trump derangement syndrome is taking its toll. Speaking of which, tonight we have more big news from the president-elect and bad news for the radical left. Donald Trump is assembling his new administration. He is doing it in record time. According to an ABC News report, he is making appointments, nominations in, quote, a quarter of the time it has taken some of his predecessors. Coming up, two of those appointments will join us live, including the soon-to-be Deputy Chief of Policy, Stephen Miller, along with the incoming press secretary. I wouldn't wish this job on anybody, Caroline Leavitt, although I do have suggestions for her. After 4 long years of circle-back Jen Psaki and Karine Jean-Pierre, change is coming to the White House briefing room. By the way, what a great idea that Ari Fleischer had. He said, put new media, put talk radio, Fox News, put, people in podcasting, put them in the front rows and take the legacy hate Trump media in the back. Their influence is dead anyway. They had 90% negative coverage of Donald Trump, 90% positive for Kamala. Trump still won in a landslide. Nobody cares what they say. And now change is coming to every facet of our federal government. Might as well do it there as well. And whether the legacy media, the radical left like it or not, it's happening. Moments ago, Donald Trump announced that American business mogul and small business administrator Linda McMahon will be appointed to lead the Department of Education, which might cease to exist by the end of Trump's term. Now, that's great. Why? Because state and local governments know better how to raise their children, and there should be national requirements that they must meet. Our friend, Dr. Mehmet Oz, he has been nominated to be the administrator for Medicare and Medicaid, which Donald Trump has promised to protect, where he will work closely with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That'll be a great 1-2 punch. Dan Scavino is back. He has been picked to be Trump's deputy chief of staff. Good choice. According to reports, Vice President-elect Vance has also confirmed that Trump is interviewing candidates to replace Chris Wray at the FBI. Now, Wray had an opportunity after Comey, I spoke about it often, to restore the reputation, the former greatness, the integrity to the FBI, which continued to operate in a very hyper-partisan manner under his watch. So Chris Wray's time as FBI director is now running short. In fact, far-left, politically motivated bureaucrats from all across the federal government, they should know that their reign of oppression on the American people is about to end. The witch hunts will end. The leaking will end. The abuse of power, the corruption will end. The so-called resistance within our government against we the people will be over. Donald Trump has nominated a team of disruptors like he said he would. They are hell-bent on reforming every single department. Look at what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will do. Waste, fraud, abuse will be gutted. Constitutional order. Remember, the principles of limited government, greater freedom, they will be restored. You won't have the nanny state, cradle to grave, womb to the tomb promises of the left that would never be realized anyway, that always result in broken promises, more poverty, and a loss of freedom. The DOJ must no longer ever be weaponized. We can't live in that country. And institutions, great institutions like the FBI and our intelligence communities, they need to be restored to their former greatness. Under Donald Trump, they will. And despite what you hear from the hysterical legacy media, the incoming administration is confident Trump's cabinet will get confirmed. Not only will Republicans have a 53-seat majority in the Senate, but the president-elect is also ready and willing to use another tool at his disposal. It is not the ideal way to do it, but if he has to, he will, like other presidents have. It's called recess appointments. And like everything else that Donald Trump does, this will send the left, the state-run legacy media mob, into a fit of hysteria. Here's some facts. Let's look at Reuters as the source, shall we? The U.S. Constitution says that a president can make recess appointments to fill vacant positions when the Senate is not in session. The Supreme Court ruled that a president can make those appointments once the Senate has been adjourned for at least 10 days. The first ever recess appointment, well, that was made by the first president himself, George Washington, during the very first congressional recess in 1790. More recently, Ronald Reagan made 240 recess appointments. President George H.W. Bush made 77 recess appointments, including as Secretary of State. Bill Clinton made 139 recess appointments. George W. Bush, 171. Barack Obama, 32. So this Thanksgiving, if you're sitting with your liberal relatives and they're not throwing turkey legs or mashed potatoes at you and they are freaking out, you can present them with these simple, basic, fundamental facts and truth. Presidents from both parties have made hundreds of recess appointments. It will not be unusual. It will not be unlawful for Donald Trump to do the same. So tonight, we can all feel very good about Donald Trump's incoming cabinet. They are about to clean house in the Washington swamp. There is, little that anyone on the radical extreme left can do about it. And of course, that won't stop them from screaming, yelling, and crying and trying. But their manufactured hysteria didn't work during the election. It's not going to work now. It's sort of like it all comes together. It's just one big 9-year period of, breathless Trump, Trump, Trump. And the American people rejected that overwhelmingly in the election. Woke cancel culture is now about to die. Americans are over it. They no longer listen to the media. They don't care what Hollywood celebrities have to say, which is great news. Oprah Winfrey, George Clooney could go back and focus on counting their money. Americans want the American dream restored for everybody else, with freedom and justice and prosperity and equal justice under the law, equal application of our laws for everybody, along with a border that is secure, streets that are safe, lower grocery prices and lower gas prices. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.